Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. Welcome to another episode of PS2 Tuesdays. This week I had intended to take a look at Gunbird Special Edition, but I couldn't get the game to display on my TV even in 50Hz mode, which was very annoying. Could be something to do with my capture device, I don't know, but it does mean that I've had to change my plans. Instead, I'm going to be taking a look at Wild Wild Racing, which was developed by Rage Software and released towards the end of the year 2000, so an extremely early release on the system, which I will try to keep in mind as I critique the game. Rage were based in Liverpool, though they also had other offices dotted around the UK, and had been around since 1992. Looking through the list of games they developed, I remember enjoying Expendable, Incoming and Hostile Waters, though none of these made a huge impact on the industry. In 2003 they were forced to file for bankruptcy because their games, in particular one based on footballer David Beckham, had failed to light up the charts in the way that they had hoped. Back to the subject of today's video though, Wild Wild Racing is an off-road racer where you take control of various different buggies and attempt to progress through increasingly hard championships. The different tracks are spread across 5 different locations: the United States, India, Iceland, Mexico and Australia. As you proceed through the ranks, these tracks become increasingly complex, with shortcuts and side routes everywhere and very lengthy laps. Sounds quite exciting, doesn't it? Well, sometimes. Let's take a closer look. Considering that the game was released a few months after the PS2 itself, the graphics of Wild Wild Racing are actually pretty impressive. There is a decent amount of detail on both the tracks and the buggies, everything moves along at a decent pace, and there is not a lot of slowdown, aliasing or screen tearing. Having said all that though, in the harsh light of 2017, the game really doesn't look all that remarkable. It is ultimately let down by a very dull colour palette. There is a lot of brown, grey and dark green about, which makes the environment look very drab and lifeless. Just a little bit more colour and variety here and there could have really improved the game and helped it live up to its Wild Wild moniker. The sound in Wild Wild Racing is serviceable, featuring the usual engine notes, crunching sounds as you collide with rocks or other racers, and the occasional interjection from the drivers, but thoroughly unremarkable. The music is totally forgettable, which is why I'm not using it at all in this video, and have instead found some nice rock from Epidemic Sound. The main career mode in Wild Wild Racing takes place over increasingly difficult championships where you need to come in first place to proceed. The problem is that it's incredibly easy to snag your car on part of the environment or another racer and lose valuable places. The earlier championships can also be extremely tough because none of the cars on offer handle very well, even the one with the highest rating for handling. What the game doesn't tell you though is that if you instead play through the challenge mode, you can unlock additional cars and upgrades for them. So to start with, you'd be better off ignoring the career and clearing the first 3 challenges, which gives you the best rookie car. These challenges consist of finding all the letters that spell out the name of the car, pushing a giant ball up a hill, and a short stunt course, all within time limits. None of these are particularly tough, but they may take you a few attempts to pass. When you get to the amateur challenges though, they can start to get very annoying, especially the letters challenge. You have a lot of letters to find spread out over a huge course, and if you miss one then you may as well start over, as you won't have enough time to double back. I also have issues with the racing itself. As mentioned, the handling is pretty hard to get used to, and the AI opponents are constantly bashing into you either by design or just because they will blindly stick to the racing line no matter what. I'm not sure which. The game also features some of the worst rubber banding I've ever seen. In the rookie races, when I spanned my car and spent ages getting back on track, I've actually seen the other cars come to an almost complete stop while they wait for me. Likewise, the opposite is true as well. You can never get ahead very far because the other cars are always right behind you, ready to capitalise on any small mistake that you make. Finally, the game just isn't wild at all, it's really quite dull. The poor handling means that you can't have fun throwing your car sideways around corners. The track designs are really nothing all that crazy, and there's no weapons or anything like that, so it's about as vanilla a racing game as you can find ultimately. This just adds to the overall feeling of disappointment. I'm giving the game a few points in this category, because I do actually like the many different routes that the tracks feature, but outside of this, Wild Wild Racing brings absolutely nothing new or clever to the genre, and is in fact a very by-the-numbers racing game. In terms of value, well, the game can easily be picked up second-hand for £1, but that's not to say I really recommend that you do so. I found the game infuriating to play at times, the dodgy handling felt torturous. This did get considerably better as I started to unlock better cars, but it was a slog getting to that point. I expect there will be some out there that would actually welcome the challenge that Wild Wild Racing offers, and that's fine, but it's not for me, I'm afraid. I doubt I will be coming back to it anytime soon. I have been interested in playing Wild Wild Racing ever since it was released, mainly due to the title and that it's an off-road racer. Now that I finally have though, I can say that I haven't missed all that much at all. PS2 owners would be far better off getting hold of Motorstorm Arctic Edge that I looked at earlier this season. Maybe it's a little harsh of me to compare a game from the beginning of the PS2's lifespan to one from the very end, but ultimately they are on the same system and they are the same genre, so I think it's a fair enough comparison. If you see Wild Wild Racing very cheap, then perhaps it's worth giving it a try. Just don't expect very much from it.